Before we start today's session, I would like to leave a few notes on what's happening in our ecosystem. First of all, if you are a founder in Porto, don't miss the last Porto Tech event at Founders this Friday, so 2 days from now. Second, I want to urge you to register for the next team conference happening on the 8th and 9th of May. This event gathers the Portuguese ecosystem, so if you want to be inspired by experienced founders and executives and connect with a very diverse and international pool of international stakeholders, don't miss this opportunity. And register now for the early bird price until January 15. So during Web Summit, we had great news for the ecosystem. The government announcement of public funding for deep tech projects. Public funding may be the driver to set the pace of growth of our startups and scale-ups. And this is why today we will be talking about public funding for startups and incubators. To discuss this topic, today I'm pleased to introduce our panel. So in Lisboa, Patrícia Roque, Content and Programming Manager at Team Conference, Startup Portugal, and Sofia Bravo, National Contact Point for Horizon Europe at European Innovation Council. In Porto, Mário Dias Moreira, Equity Manager at Banco Português de Fomento, and João Pereira, Investment Director at Portugal Ventures. So and now I think I'm handing over to João in Lisbon. João.
Hi, Marilia. Can you hear me there?
Yeah, we can.
Thank you so much for the ecosystem briefing. Hello, everyone. It's great to have you back on stage, actually, even if just for the briefing. My name is João Moreira Pires, and I'm your host for this evening's Above and Beyond Hangout here in Lisbon. How are things in Porto? We have Madalena already. Madalena, how's everything?
Hi, João. Very, very chilly up here, so very, very cold, but we have a big room and a warm-up pitch to warm our people here sitting. So I would like to start by saying that the startups and incubators pitching today are financed by the vouchers for startups and vouchers for incubators. So with no further ado, let's call the first startup. So Tiago Santos, CEO from Agit.
Thank you. Yeah, so before starting, we are here and everything I'm going to present is only possible and also like provided by through in our case, the startup voucher. So yeah, I'm vouching for startup vouchers. If you haven't applied, I'm not sure if you can right now, but who knows for the future. So pay close attention. Now my own pitch. So I'm Tiago Santos. I'm one of the founders of Agit, and we develop technology that tracks physical exercise using the smartphone camera. Sorry for the, I think, okay, now it's working. Our goal is to create a personal fitness assistant for everyone because exercising alone can be difficult and boring. And current digital solutions don't help with that. There are plenty of fitness apps. There are plenty of YouTube videos. They give you workout programs. They tell you exactly what you should be doing, but they don't interact with the workout being performed. They don't know whether you do stuff or how you do them. And at the same time, it's not just bad for those that work out, but it's bad for those that prescribe the workouts, particularly online coaches that have the struggle to keep their remote clients engaged through their online sessions. So that's what we decided to fix. Yeah. Oops, sorry. Sorry, let me just, yeah, perfect. So in Agit, as I said, we track physical exercise in real time. And the way it works, you basically put the smartphone on the floor, you take 3 steps back, and you start moving. Our AI recognizes what you are doing, the action, what stage you are in the action, any errors you might be doing, and provide you instant feedback either visual or audio. And this is just where it starts, because by tracking your actual movement, by tracking your actual movements, we can actually enable things that weren't possible before. For instance, leaderboards. For instance, social sharing. The same way you have Strava for cycling, for running, you can now have that for workouts you do at the comfort of your house or at the gym. And speaking of communities and really authentic communities, I have to talk to you again about the online coaches who now have a way to do not just live sessions as they would normally do in Zoom or Google Meet, but they can now do it with real-time knowledge about what their people are doing, live leaderboards, in essence, a more scalable way of coaching their athletes. And we don't charge them anything. We take a cut from every transaction they do. So we take 20% out of every transaction. So in essence, we can say our success is their success. We are building this now because it wasn't possible before. A kind of technology like this wouldn't run in your smartphone hardware just a few years ago. At the same time, the fitness needs are evolving dramatically, and so is the market size. We are growing. We are actually on our way to reach 100,000 workouts completed through our app. Many thanks to the coaches, to the users, to the physical education teachers that use our app in Portugal, Spain, and now in the US. Our mission is to empower healthier lifestyles, of course, and keep you engaged and motivated to work out. We are a team. We started this actually as two Portuguese founders. Now we are merging with a new founder from the US and growing there, even though the company is Portuguese, of course. And to finalize, we are looking for online content creators, coaches. So if you have any reference that you can give me, provide me at the end of this session. And feel free to do some burpees if you have the energy today. If you don't, maybe tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tiago. And now for our second startup of the day, please welcome André Facot, CEO of Skizo. Come on, come on.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is André, and I am one of the co-founders from Skizo. Skizo is a Portuguese startup that starts our project in 2018. I live near of Costa da Caparica, and one time with my son, I saw trying to put some plastics in our mouth. We clean around, but we collect this picture. And this is not the legacy that we want to pass for the next generation. And that's why we want to be disruptive, and we want to change what fashion is actually, to be more sustainable and more regenerative. So, Skizo works in materials science. What is material science? We collect plastic from the ocean and discarded fish nets, and we transform that fish nets and that plastic into recycled polyamide and recycled polyester in a more sustainable way. And we start to recycle another materials like algae, cork, rice husk, and coffee waste. This is our process, like what we collect. Since the start, we collect and all the phases until we reach the final phase, that is the design of our products. So we have benefits when we are recycling this PET or these discarded fish nets. Instead, we work with the virgin materials. And with green vouchers, we start to make the same thing with algae. We start to incorporate this algae into these new raw materials that we use. And with that, we can add organically some characteristics that we can only add right now by using heavy metals or chemicals. We are also one of the industrial leaders from a Portuguese consortium that is working with another fund in Portugal to transform old fish nets and discarded fish nets into recycled polyamide. And last year we won the Open Innovation Program or Accelerator from Delta Coffees. And we challenged Delta Coffees to use one of the ways for them, but a resource for us, that can be usable to make a new yarn and also a new bio-leather that I can pass to show what we can do. So, if you want to pass. So, with motto that is not what you wear, is what you save, we start to producing our own brand of sneakers. We don't have any stock of these products. We produce on demand. And this is an opportunity to give the chance to our customers to customize at their own taste and receive what they like. With this, we have built an ecosystem here in Portugal. We can introduce a new resource or a new waste for some companies into this ecosystem, and we can transform this waste into a new resource for fashion. We have some case studies here in Portugal and also in some universities outside of Portugal, some theses from students also. Some media in Portugal and also international media. I have always a joke. I don't know if you know that, but I will say it again. When we show in TV shows, Andrea appears because he's more beautiful than me, and I don't want to afraid our customers. Here are some awards and prizes, also Portuguese awards and international awards. And this is one of the most proud meeting that we have won with our president. We have been named one of 13 heroes by the ocean in 2022. We are just two. We're doing all that stuff, but we are just two yet. We are negotiate our seed round right now. If you want to join, it's open for everyone that wants to help us to transform this fashion industry. And to end our presentation, I just want to give a slide of our impact. We have sold more than 60,000 products globally, and we have cleaned an oceanic area equivalent of 14,000 kilometers square. So it's not what you wear, it's what you save. Thank you.
Amazing impact. So, and now for the first time ever in the Above and Beyond Hangouts, we will have a pitch from an incubator. So let's welcome to the stage Elizabeth Parodi, incubator manager from Lince Trofa.
Hello, good afternoon. So my name is Elizabeth, and I'm here to present today Lince Trofa, which is a joint project of the business association, AEBA, Baixo Business Association, and the Trofa City Council. So we aim to provide entrepreneurs with the means to create and develop profitable, sustainable, and successful business projects in any area of activity. And this is really a major point of our incubator, because you can find at Lince Trofa from the most traditional projects, which are, we also receive them very well, to the most innovative ones. Our strategic goal is to inspire the transformation of good ideas into business ideas, to involve promoters in an environment conducive to innovation, to support. We promote a very supportive environment because think this is one of our uniqueness. We have Bashuav Business Association as a partner, so we can kind of match the value propositions of our incubators to the needs of the companies that are associated with us. And also integrate the region's largest entrepreneurship hub, involving public and private institutions. So now we'll see a short video about the day-to-day at Linkstrofe, where we'll see very traditional projects and some of the most innovative ones. And the nice thing here is that why Linkstrofe? We have several reasons, but the strategical location, because Trofa it's in the center of an industrial hub, so we easily can go to Braga, Porto, Famalicão, Santo Tirso. We have huge industries there, and some of those industries are our associations, so we can kind of match the propositions to the needs of our companies. We have our team, not only the Linkstrofe team, but also IEBA Business Association team that we offer support in all areas of a day-to-day needs company, from accounting to juridical. So we promote several events with our partners. So we have a unique ecosystem of mentors and industry experts in the area. Yeah, the main thing is to connect a region, what a region mostly knows to do, and to connect that with the startups offers. As we are here and the theme of the pitch today is public funding, we also have an incubator voucher, and under the project Digital Tech Linkstrofe. And we are now on the process of improving our facilities, which are we offer several facilities. We have an auditorium, several common rooms, and also rooms for events. But our purpose is to digitalize, and we are now under this process to digitalize all the services that we offer physically at Linkstrofe. We are now in process of digitalizing them. That's why this project, Linkstrofe Digital Tech, in order to give our incubators the best service possible, and if possible in real time. So we will be more than happy to receive you, to visit us, and maybe to be with us at Linkstrofe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And now for the second ever incubator pitch at the Above and Beyond Hangout. Please welcome Lispolis Manager for Promotion and Innovation, Pedro Rebordão.
Hi guys. Who knows Lispolis? I'm playing at home. So Lispolis is a non-profit association who started 33 years ago. And our incubation and development center offers 2,800 square meters of office and lab space. And that's one of the things that I would like to highlight here. And we were created back then to help startups achieving success. I would say that's the purpose of all of us that are working on the incubation. So the incubator is located at the Lisbon Tech Park. It's just 10 minutes from the city center, 10 minutes from the international airport. Today we host about 140 companies, more than 400 companies since we started back then in 1991. And we are talking about 100,000 square meters for tech business when we'll be at fully operation. Today we host about 60 startups and tech SMEs, mainly in the ICT sector, health sector, energy and space. Our incubator integrates several networks. The Incubators National Network is certified for the program Startup Visa by IPMI and also recognized by Innovation National Agency, ANI. The first thing we have to offer is a community of 140 companies we are talking not just about startups, we are talking about startups, SMEs, big companies, or multinationals, all at the same spot. We have a strong events agenda on entrepreneurship. Yesterday we had our last meetup of the year on how to value your startup with several partners, like Annie was one of the keynote speakers, and also a startup grantier. Supporting services for all of them. You know, we have learned through the years that all the companies, all the startups need support. You know, all of them, they need an accountant. As we cannot have them in our team, we have a network to help them on that. But also access to a network of 40 mentors. Those mentors are really close to us. Some of them are CEOs of the big companies hosted at Least Polish. Some of them are from our network, and we go get them from tech, from the universities, and from business side. We also can provide some access, international access to the companies through our international projects, soft landing protocols, mainly in Brazil and in Spain, and also international connections. We are a part of IASP, it's the International Association of Science Parks and Areas of Innovations. We are connected to private and public investors. We are Ignition partners from Portugal Ventures since day one, and with more than 40 applications submitted, and we also have access to the private investors. We prepare the startups for pitching, we help them schedule the meeting, and that's our main support. Since 2020, we have a partnership with Elstec Lisboa. This is a venture builder for the Elstec. And we were born agnostic regarding technology. For the last 5 years, we are working on it towards Elstec, and the venture builder is really important for our business proposal. This year, we also benefit from the VAL Incubators and Aceleradoras. We already started and conclude 2 acceleration programs. The first one on energy and sustainability. The second one, in addition, you know, it was about 30 startups, 35 mentors, and a lot of fun. Okay, we believe that, you know, as Polish and our entrepreneurs are also concerned with the environment, so this is also a challenge. We believe also that social business and social responsibility should go hand together. And as why do we offer difference? That was the challenge of Startup Portugal. Yes, with industrial license and the possibility to install laboratories, plus a venture builder on the health sector, we believe that we are the right spot if you have an health tech or a med tech company, and not just for startups, but also for scale-ups. My name is Pedro Rebordão. I'm Innovation Manager at Least Polish. It was a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you very much, Pedro. So these were our first 2 pitch from Incubators. So moving on to our panel discussion on public funding for startups and incubators, I would like to welcome to the stage here in Porto, João Pereira, Investment Director from Portugal Ventures, and Mário Dias Moreira, Equity Manager from Banco Português de Fomento. Thank you very much. And in Lisbon, sorry.
And here in Lisbon, let's welcome Sofia Bravo, National Contact Point for the IC at ANI, and our very own Patricia Roque from Startup Portugal, and very recently, SIM Conferences Content and Programming Manager. An applause for the ladies, please.
So, hi. Okay. Hello, Porto. Is everybody ready?
Hello.
Yeah? Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. So, first of all, congratulations to all the projects that were here today pitching. It makes us very proud to have such great projects financed by the vouchers. I also want to thank our panel for today. As you know, we're going to talk about public funding and public funding policies. I would like to start to ask each one of our speakers today to present themselves and to tell us what part do their entities play in the public financing in Portugal. Do you want to start, Sofia, maybe?
Okay. So good evening. I think it's already dark outside. My name is Sofia, so thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Sofia Bravo. I don't know how many of you already know me, maybe some of you, because my work mostly is to speak with companies, and I will explain why. So I work at the National Innovation Agency. Do you know the National Innovation Agency, any of you? Okay, so that's good. But for those who don't know, the National Innovation Agency was founded back in the 90s, so we already have like 30 years. And it was founded mainly to bridge the gap between academia and business. So we are always dealing with with R&D, with companies that are trying to explore R&D results. So in our case, in the National Innovation Agency case, we are always dealing with initiatives, either funding or any kind of initiatives that are trying to promote R&D results, so, and the exploration of economic R&D, the economic exploration of R&D results. This means that we try to support companies that are trying to develop new technologies, either alone because they have their own means, or in partnership with the academia. And we are trying to support them to develop new technologies, to develop solutions for their own processes. It always has to do with solve problems, with resourcing to R&D results, and trying to solve problems that technology is not able now to solve. So you have to build new knowledge and try to solve those problems. So we are always dealing with R&D and R&D-based funding or initiatives. I'm trying to explain this very thoroughly. Why? Because there are other institutions in Portugal, and I think that João, so Portugal Ventures and BPF, yeah, they are more broad in terms of the scope of the initiatives that they deal with. So, and ANI, it's important for you to understand that ANI is really focused on R&D. What I can tell, and I was explaining that my role at R&D, so R&D mainly, I would say it's divided in two big areas. You have people, lots of people there that are dealing with national funding schemes. So for you that already know some of these national funding schemes, you know that there are framework programs that have lots of incentives for companies and for other kinds of entities to that can apply for. And the current framework program is Portugal 2030, and Portugal 2030 also has a lot of opportunities for companies that do R&D, that are trying to develop new technologies. And ANI is responsible for the management of those incentive schemes that are targeting this kind of companies and these kind of activities. And apart from that, we have at ANI also another team that is helping all our Portuguese either companies or entities from academia to be competitive in the European funds. So there's a framework program also very much dedicated to R&D and innovation that is managed centrally by the European Commission. So our role here is more to promote the participation, explaining you how you can be competitive to explore those opportunities at the European level. And I'm part of that team, and that I'm very specialized in a specific budget inside that European Framework Program, and this specific budget is called the European Innovation Council. So I'm national contact point for the European Innovation Council, and I have this role to help you understand how you can be very competitive when you're competing there, so at the European level, with companies from all the countries, how you can be competitive and bring the money from the European Innovation Council. I don't know if I'll have the opportunity to explain better, but the European Innovation Council is a novelty in European framework programs. And what it gives it's something that they called blended finance. So they have support to companies that have something in hands that was born on R&D and is really solving a problem to industry that technology nowadays cannot address. So we are talking about those companies that are pushing the boundaries of technology. They have already lots of compromission, but they have to overcome huge obstacles to come to the markets. So typically for industries that have to overcome regulatory challenges, big regulatory challenges or industrialization challenges, and they need many millions to de-risk and then to fund their growth in the market. So these companies, I'm helping these kind of companies to be competitive when they are competing for the funding. So I think that's why you invited me to be here today. Why? Because I have a really good understanding of how the ecosystem works and what are the challenges that these companies are dealing with. And
yeah, we'll go more deeply into that further in the discussion. Okay, so João, do you want to go on to explain us on the side of Portugal Ventures? How do you address the market and what is your role?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here today. So I'm João Pereira. I'm an investment director at Portugal Ventures. Portugal Ventures is a government-sponsored VC firm. We have been investing typically in early stage, very early stage companies here in Portugal or starting in Portugal. We invest typically 100K, 100,000 euros up to 1 million across all sectors, starting with eventually with tourism, also health-related opportunities, IT, manufacturing, energy. So you can find in our actual portfolio, you can find some examples of all of these that I mentioned. As a VC sponsored by the government, that means that we have a very clear strategy that is obviously investing in what is considered to be imperfect in the market, or eventually that doesn't have a typical solution coming from the market. Economists eventually they call this a failure. That was eventually I learned when I was there in the school. And when we have market failures, eventually we have this kind of approach, acting as a typical VC firm, private one, but with a very clear public mandate. And this mandate, for instance, is related with our very considered partner, ANI, because we are investing in a typical stage, which is pre-seed. We have a program for that we call the InnovID. That's why we invest smaller share, because we start there. And it is the basic approach where normally you can't find the private investors to assume such a big risk of coming out of the lab or the PhD results and having to develop POCs or prototypes or whatever that you need eventually to arrive at the market with a kind of an offer that can be commercial. So that's us. In terms of our measured achievements, if you want, I could eventually select some, and you know that I'll be selecting the best ones. from our portfolio, I can remember that it was good to us to have invested in OutSystem. It was good to us to invest in fiber sensing, for instance, which is a fiber optics company that was sold to a multinational engineering company in Germany. We invested also in B Parts, also a Porto company that we sold to Stellantis. We invested also in Mercadão, also a Porto company that we sold to Glovo, then Delivery Hero. And very recently, we sold at least the IP part of Cellmabs, which is a health-related company, to Novartis. So we are very happy with what we have been doing for the past 12 to 13 years. Well, we'll have much time to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and now, Mario, can you tell us more about BPF?
Hello, thank you very much for the kind invitation. I'm Mário Dias Moreira. I'm representing PPF, our National Promotional Bank. We have the mission, the objective to manage the public fund. At this instant, we have 1.3 billion euros from PRR to manage, separated in four different programs. As Portugal Ventures, we have to be aware of the market flaws. So I can name three. We are concerned about the big investments, the larger rounds that usually are more difficult to accomplish in Portugal. We are also available to support projects in greenfield, projects that have larger risk. And for example, we are also prepared to be involved in operations of debt refinancing. That is a part of the huge needs of our companies. I don't know if you want me to carry on or
Yes.
with my. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think it would be interesting, and then we can go on with the other speakers. But if you want to start, I wanted to ask if you can give us an idea of what's the process for the ones who are in really early stages. So how can they get to know Portugal Ventures, or when should they know that Portugal Ventures is, or BPF, sorry, is the partner to go with, and how do you start collaborating with a startup or a project? What's the process?
Okay. If we want, I cannot talk about our limitations. Regarding the sectors, we can work with companies from all sectors. The exceptions are explained in our product sheet, but we obviously don't work with the tobacco industry and the sexual trade, obviously, and those others. That's one of the several of the exclusions, and the real estate sector has some limitations. Other than that, we can work with all kind of company. We can work with we have products for all stages of a company life. In the beginning with venture capital, and earliest and later stage with equity, we can have a direct or indirect approach to the companies. And I would say that a company, a startup company that at this stage has revenue at the year before this one is eligible to subscribe an application.
Okay.
But we have some needs. For example, the partnership with a private entity is key for the process to work. So the first step, answering your question, it will be to a company find a private investor that can come up with some kind of business proposition to that company, and that will be the primary or the more difficult thing accomplish because the market has to function freely so we can operate and not be considered a public aid. This is called the private operators market. And after that stage, any company can approach the PPF and
Okay.
um, come up with a business proposal.
Okay, okay, great. Thank you. João, regarding PV, Portugal Ventures is in contact with startups from really early stages. You even have some initiatives to be closer to the community, such as your open days, which I think is very positive because you can give some insight to these startups right from their start. So can you tell us typically what's the stage at which the startups are when they approach you, and what do they need to be ready for an investment?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Um, we invest very early, as I mentioned, and to do this, we need obviously of many parts of the ecosystem, and I'm very comfortable to be with partners in this ecosystem. Those partners are represented in ways here. So we had here presenting some incubators, but there are many. So we are in an incubator, right? We are in the tech area. So we work basically starting with this network of agents, entities that are in the ecosystem of startups, tech startups in our case. And obviously we try to have these conversations around opportunities. We do give presentations, or we are in workshops, or we are interacting directly with companies. We participate in acceleration programs with our partners, and we do also direct interaction. As you mentioned, we have Open Day. Open Day is a way of having an open day to us to interact with everybody that wants to approach us. So you don't need to, any startup doesn't need to, you know, to have any special situation to interact with the team. The team is there to even if you don't have the intention at this stage to ask for venture capital money, but you want to understand eventually what would be suitable, you can have a conversation with a member of the team. And then we do the calls with what we name the calls. And the calls are, you know, just to pick the market for certain types of technologies or opportunities that we want to have to be considered for investment. So as I mentioned, we work with Annie in the ID type of approach, meaning kind of very pre-seed, very early type of startups. But we do other things. We launched the deep tech call last year. We have now undergoing a new call for Leiria region because we just started a very regional, concise type of fund for that region, and many others. So
Okay.
in sum, our interactions with the ecosystem are via the partners and can be direct, and that's the most efficient and the easiest way to
Okay.
have a conversation with Portugal Venture.
Okay, thank you. And now off to Sofia, because you're the only one here who also supports the applications to grants, which is another type of investment, not VC money. Can you tell us what is typically the types of activities that these type of financing supports, and how do you support those applications? What are the opportunities in here? Okay.
Of course. So yes, I forgot to tell you that ANI mainly manages grants, so supports companies, R&D, corporate R&D through grants. And this is the case for the national funding schemes. So, but what you have to understand is grants are non-repayable funding that you receive. And of course, it has a very different logic from the investment because it's non-repayable, so it's money that you receive for free. But you have to understand that in this specific context of developing a new technology, a new solution, you can only receive non-repayable money, so in the form of a grant, if you are in the earliest stages of the development. So I don't know if you know the TRL scale, so it's the technology readiness level scale. This is important for you to understand if you want to understand better the reasoning behind all these funding instruments, public funding. So what happens is that you have that TRL scale, it's the technology readiness level, and it is, you can look at this scale as it has 9 stages from stage 1, which is typically the technology doesn't exist and you go to the lab to try to develop. And then you have stage 9, where you already have a fully developed technology that you can deploy and hand on the market. So, and this scale, they have typically three groups of stages, which are from TRL 1 to 4. This means that you have developed until the proof of concept. Then you have from proof of concept to a pilot. It means that you have proved that it functions outside the lab. And then you have from the pilot to the market. And typically, the public money can be given in this grant model to companies that are developing until TRL, I'll say 7, until the pilot phase, 6, 7, TRL 6, 7. And why is this? Because you will be distorting competition rules if you were handing non-repayable money to companies for the go-to-market activities. So what happens is that when you want to support companies that are already on the go-to-market stage, they are developing go-to-market activities and they will pay go-to-market activities with the public money, you have to support them with other kind of instruments that are non-repayable instruments. So all other kinds, like investments in all its forms, like loans and other kind of instruments. So this is the rationale, and it's important for you to understand this because it also helps you to understand how the money functions and how how it is organized. So in terms of grants, the logic behind the grants is that we just can fund development activities until pre-market activities. When you reach the market actions stage, you are out of the scope to receive a grant. When we are speaking about technology development, because you have non-repayable funding for other kinds of activities available on the ecosystem, but because there are other reasons to fund these activities. It might be because it's considered a very strategic sector, or for some reason the activities that must be helped to also have a synergistic effect on other sectors that for somehow politicians think they are very important. But in terms of technology development, this is how it works. And this is very important for you to understand.
Yeah, thank you, Sophia. I wanted to also, the next question, maybe we can start with you, is can you give us an idea or some examples of the impact that you see that this kind of funding has brought to the market and to our ecosystem?
You mean the grant funding or the technology development funding?
The grant funding.
The grant funding.
Yeah.
Well, uh, the grant funding, about the grant funding, I think that what it's important for you to understand has startups, so you are early stage companies. I think you are all here because you are in that stage of development. I think that for the typical schemes that ANI manages to support national companies that are developing new technologies and trying to bring them to the market, etc. So you are developing a new solution, and you apply for a grant funding scheme. Is that many of the rules of the national rules inside the national programs? So I'm telling you national because you also have the possibility to apply to European funding schemes, but in terms of the national rules, they are really very, very bureaucratic. So for you to access grant funding schemes, it's a really bureaucratic process. And I think there are some rules in terms of financial indicators that you have to have in your company to have access to some of these funding schemes. I don't know if they are a really good fit for you for several reasons. And the fact that you think of, you should never think of a grant having no costs for you, or because we say it's non-repayable, but it usually has a huge cost because you have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy. It implies a lot of investment of time and resources from your side to be able to deal with all the bureaucracy, the complex procedures to apply, to execute the projects. And there are still some of these schemes that imply for you to imagine that you apply, you have your application is approved for funding, and for you to execute the funding that you had approved, in most cases you have to first spend the money, and then you have to wait for the reimbursement of the money. So as you can imagine, and sometimes there's a huge uncertainty of how long is the time to money. So for a very small company with very low liquidity or availability in terms of money in the bank, it will be, I think, it could be a huge problem. So if you have to spend first, then tell them I have already spent and prove that you have spent the money, and then wait for the reimbursement to come. It can be a huge challenge for a very, very small company. Yeah. So I think that you have to understand all these things. It's very, very important for you. And actually, there's also a huge gap between the language, the fully bureaucratic language that you have to deal with to apply to these kind of schemes, and the business. So there's a huge gap between, in another way, I think in a simple way, these kind of schemes are not very business friendly in terms of language, time to money, how you have to execute the money, etc., 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 all the complications around rules.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry, I don't want to disincentivize, but I think that it's always better for you to understand very well what you are going to deal with.
Yeah.
In terms of European funding, it's much better. So I think that the European Commission has put in place a series of schemes that are much more business friendly in terms of either the language, the rules, the application process, and the time to money. So I would say, if I could give you an advice, if you can choose, it's always better to look into European opportunities, also because you are going to be in an environment that raises the bar, because you will be there competing with companies from all over Europe in an environment that I think it will be much much better for companies that have an international ambition. That's the case for every company, I think.
So we touched here a point that I think is critical in this financial support, which is bureaucracy, which we know is sometimes a lagger for startups. João and Mario, do you have any advice for our founders who are thinking about applying to public funding? What should they take into account before starting to invest their time in these kinds of processes?
Let me tell you, there is a huge carrot at the end of the process, because we have a huge leverage impact on private money. For example, if you want 10 million euros and you find a private partner that can come up with 3 million, we can put up to 7. So the ratio is very comfortable, and it's less time consuming to have this kind of proposition that go to several private entities to come up with these 10 million euros of example. And this has been the process that several real companies have took place, like Pizza and Farm Drop, and the companies that have counted with the support of Portugal Ventures, and then BPF, like Incubators and Barking. But this, to achieve this goal, you have to be prepared to a lot of information. There is our product sheets have several stages that you have to be prepared to meet the private project with the requirements of the program. So to have this perfect balance, I would say that it would be a good advice to come to us previously, so we can go to this limitation, and to have, for example, a co-investor that has some experience in these kinds of proposals. You can, in our website, the partners that we have in our products, the private partners, that will be a sound advice. But all the paperwork that we demand, some is for us to analyze the project, business plan, etc. But there is a big part of the work that is associated with conformity and information that we have to be aware because of the traffic. Yes, compliance information. So we are these are public programs that are audited. So there is a huge part of documents that take a lot of time. But that's the way things work.
I have one last question for João, but before that, I want you to prepare for Q&A. So if anyone has questions, please raise your hand so we can give you the mic. But before we go there, João, I'd like to ask in terms of impact, because you open calls in specific areas and sectors. What do you see that is the impact of your investments in the ecosystem and in the economy? Do you think that there's a surge in specific sectors because you're giving opportunity to new startups and new projects to develop their products, what do you feel is the impact in the economy?
Thank you. The impact can be measured in many dimensions, in my opinion. I lived through all those 12 years in Portugal Ventures, and I can assure you that 12 years ago there was no ecosystem, there was some efforts. And what we see today, obviously, it is not the work of Portugal Ventures, but I can see Portugal Ventures as a big part of what has been achieved by the ecosystem. So just to us to keep in mind, we invested in more than 200 companies through the process. And from those 200 companies, many of those companies have been active in the ecosystem. They are alive and kicking. They have been invested by private investors, international investors. Some of those companies have been exited with success. Some of those companies eventually will be talked later as big successes for our economy. And that is just one dimension of the work that Portugal Ventures can see as its impact. The second impact is related with again with what we encountered here 10 or 12 years ago. There was no way we could find professional investors in the venture capital area that was residual, absolutely residual. Nobody, or at least nobody less one or two, would know even what was a term sheet or the typical agreement for investment. There was no connections whatsoever, international connection. It was to support the company. There was no knowledge that we could use to support the company. So, as a government-sponsored company, a VC firm that has this different flavor, we have just decided to do many things that eventually you are not expecting a VC firm. We have been supporting companies to go to the US. We had even paid for, in the earliest, we have paid for startups to be in California, in the Silicon Valley, in San Francisco. We have paid for companies to be in Boston, near MIT. We have been paying by those times to people to go to London and Berlin and eventually other more developed ecosystems for startups, for tech startups. And that is just a part of it. So many people in the world, even investors coming to Portugal, they remember well why they learned about Portugal as an ecosystem for startups. They learned via our very early effort to just bring people to expose our ecosystem, to expose our startups there. So I see also that impact coming from our work. And secondly, I see it in the opportunities that I generate for private investors here in Portugal. Just to mention that from InnovID, that Sophia knows well, from InnovID efforts that we have been doing for the past couple of years, we invested in more than 60 companies, very little companies starting, and more than 60% of them, they had just received money from private funds, local, Portuguese, and international, which is, if you go and see statistics, is way, way above the typical transition in between stages from pre-seed to seed, where there is a high degree of mortality. So those are the kinds of measures of impact that we can use just to aside the economic, the most financial one that we can also talk about, but those are the typical impacts that I could just bring to our discussion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, João. Now, let's go on into the questions. So we have a question here in Lisbon.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Roger. The question is for the whole panel. So I would like to hear, even though you might not be working directly, but do you have any tips in companies related to social impact, diversity, and stuff like that? How could those type of companies use some public funding?
Anyone?
Mario, do you have still active social fund?
Yeah.
Uh,
There.
at this stage, yeah, social,
It was a social innovation fund.
no, I'm not that related to that program, so
Yeah.
I can talk about it. We have some programs we can support directly, but at the social, it's not. We have lots of limitations. So in the deal by deal program, so I'm not yet comfortable to talk about that kind of
I don't know
support.
if you.
Remember it.
To speak about that social innovation fund that you used to that companies could apply for, but if my colleague from the BPF is saying that the fund is not now active and receiving applications, but you can look for the social innovation fund in Fundo,
There are some
Fundo
private
de
funds
Inovação
there.
Social.
Yeah, but maybe I can help because
Yeah.
although I know
Yeah,
your
but,
project and I know, of course, it has a social impact uh, area, I would say, but you are a technology project, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to go only to like social impacts
where
or
I'm
specific funds.
impacting, yeah.
Of course, there are VCs that work specifically in this area, such as Maze, for example. But I would say that any generalist fund, and I don't know, actually I don't know specifics about PV, but there are some impact startups that have been supported, like clean tech in other areas, like clean tech, health, right, João? I think. Yeah. So.
Let me just eventually to add that if you are talking about the normal business, which has profit as its motive,
Yeah.
and it makes sense for you to be playing the game of venture capital, we are in the same game. If eventually your end goal is the impact, so sustainability itself or impact in society, whatever, that's a different kind of approach. So we are not there. But again, as you mentioned, I remember at least one company I'm fighting here inside to remember the name. I invested in a company that was a commercial company, so the profit motive was there, typical commercial company. But they worked for social impact in the sense that they were trying to be like a marketplace, a financial marketplace for social organization.
Yeah. Wasn't it
To
not
mention an example.
GoParity? Maybe? No.
It was no go. It was
No,
not
no.
GoParity.
No.
It
Okay.
was
Yeah.
some
Okay.
years before GoParity,
Yeah, but Jean, maybe what
like 10 years ago.
what could help would be to maybe let you know like what KPIs or what things should a company with social impact focus if you're pitching, for example, for a general VC. Would this help? Or
Like a general VC like me.
Yes. Yes.
No, the typical measure is the financial one, right? So we must be convinced that and many others, we must be convinced that we have a startup that promises to grow, and by growing and going global, eventually they will have uh, 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 an increase in value because we have our earnings from the increase of value of startup, right? So when I invest in a company, I buy shares from the company at a certain price, and my earnings come for the fund when I sell later the same shares or whatever comes from other investments through the process, and I sell them to other parties, and from the difference of valorization, I get my earn. So the typical approach to a startup to go to a VC fund can be Portugal Ventures is universal. So you have just to have a conversation. Our interaction is most of times a conversation that starts where will be eventually convinced that we can get those earnings in the future. So you will be bringing valorization in the future by growing.
Okay. If I can add something, I'm going to take your your questions just to tell you something that also I think it's also very important for you to understand about public funding. So public funding, I would say that the minimum in terms of impact is do no harm. And when we say do no harm, is in terms of not societal impact. So think of all the problems that we are dealing today, the big challenges as a society. Think of climate, so environment, health, democracy, communication, whatever. And so the minimum is do no harm. And for you to be competitive in public funding, you have to have that societal impact. So you must be a company that is handing something to the market, to the industry, to whoever are your clients, that will help them transition to a better paradigm. So we need to solve our current problems, and you know that we are now going through a stage in the history of the world that is, I think, that is with no parallel. We have lots of problems to solve, and so we need solutions to those problems. So I would say that you should all look into public funding like that. So public funding is to solve our current problems. So you must have always a narrative, or you have to have some content in your narrative that fits into this. We have to solve our current problems. So public money will address those solutions that we still don't have. So preferably, you should be addressing one of those problems that still don't have a solution. And you should present yourselves in those terms, explaining how much impact you are going to have, what is the cost of your solution not still being on the market, and when you explain your costs, it includes a cost that is that has societal impact. It can be carbon emissions, it can be jobs, it can be. So don't speak just about the money. So when you're speaking to public funding, you should also be impacting problems that we need to solve. Okay. So,
thank you, Sofia. Now let's check. Are there questions in Porto? No questions in Porto. Okay. So a very shy audience. Either shy or thirsty for the beers after. So there's another one here.
Well, thank you. My question is, you mentioned that you support early stage startups. By early stage, do you mean like idea stage, concept development, MVP?
Okay. Who is the question for?
For the whole panel.
For the whole panel, okay. So do you want to do a round? A quick round, because we need to finish in 2 minutes.
At ANI, what you can find is you have, and João has already explained that I don't know if you understood, but PV and ANI have a joint call for pre-seed stage investment. And they typically invest with a 100K ticket. But it's really fine-tuned to R&D. So that's why it is called Innov ID call. So you have to have that R&D nuance or have R&D capacity inside the team, because you are, let's say, the company was founded by researchers that are trying to explore the result of a research project, or either you are a spin-off from academia that are trying to bring something new to the market in terms of technology. You are trying to bring a new technology to the market that still doesn't exist, and you are trying to hand that to a certain industry. So you must be a good fit for that profile that I told you, that you are research and development driven, and you have also huge obstacles to overcome. So typically, software as a service business models don't fit in here, because you'll be it's very easy for you to raise money in private investors, because your business model, it's very easy to scale. But you have all the other industries like biotechnology, or industries that are, or when you develop a new material, a new something in sectors or health sector that are very, very regulated, and you have like huge barriers to overcome, regulation barriers, or you are trying to hand a hardware to the market, something that includes hardware. And for you to supply to the whole world, you have to invest hardly in industrialization. So you have these kind of obstacles in these projects that João was telling you about, that are funded through the Innov ID call in pre-seed stage, are typically for these kinds of arguments, of companies that have this kind of, that are a good fit for this profile that I have already explained. So you have that for very early stage. And then you have some initiatives for very, very early stage companies. We have a tiny, it's more like a recognition award that is called Born from Knowledge. So for very, very early stage projects, some of them are not still incorporated, and he gives them like a quality stamp. And then that quality stamp, of course, it will give them access to other initiatives, and hopefully it will give you access to other initiatives. And then you also have, for early stage, I wouldn't say for pre-seed, but maybe, I don't know, I won't say pre-seed, but for early stage companies, you have funds in Portugal that have fiscal incentives to invest in companies that do R&D. So you can, ANI is responsible for the incentive, the fiscal incentive schemes that give that fiscal incentive to funds to invest in R&D companies, and is also responsible for certifying that those companies really do R&D, and then the funds invest in those companies. Use that specific fund that has fiscal incentives to invest.
Though it's a private fund, it has fiscal incentives, which is like a public support.
Okay. Exactly. Okay. And for the European money, the European Innovation Council is also for very early stage companies, but the thing is that you are going to compete with companies from other ecosystems in Europe that get in pre-seed stages. So Portugal Ventures typically gives them 100K in pre-seed stages, but you are going to compete with companies that receive up to 1.5 million in pre-seed stages. So,
Yeah.
so it's not exactly a level playing field, but it's possible. We have 15 companies in Portugal that have already 82 million in funding approved by the European Innovation Council, and they are these kind of companies, early stage companies.
We need
Some
to-
of them,
sorry, Sophia, we
I'm
need
sorry.
to wrap up. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
no
We
problem.
can talk
Of
after
course.
at
Yeah,
the networking.
I'm always available if you
Yeah.
want to know more.
I just wanted to ask João and Mario if you want to go on about the stages of the companies you usually fund.
Yeah, if I may. So very, very simply, if you are talking about tech, so ICT related, whatever, the business model, typically we start with MVP. We prefer, obviously, if you have sales, if you have customers. If you are talking about technology, probably we are talking about exactly that you have something that can be protected and can be brought to the market. So it depends on what you are talking about.
Okay, okay. And
In the PF, we have to grade the merit of the project. So at this stage, we have some kind of limitations in which the company has to have revenue at the year before the investment. So that's the minimum stage of the development.
okay, okay. So that's the only constraint. Great. So thank you all. We'll need to wrap up, but we can talk more after at the networking part of the event. I would also, concerning this, I would also like to say that in our newsletter and in our website at Startup Portugal, you can see a lot of public and private opportunities for funding. So if you're looking for funding for your startup or for your idea, you can always reach out to us either by searching on our website or by contacting our one-stop shop, which is available to meet with you and give you all the information about grants, funding that is available in Portugal, and that you can take part in. Okay, so thank you all for this great conversation, and I hope to see you next month. Madalena.
Please give our guests a big, big round of applause. And back to you, João.
Thank you, Madalena. Just before we close, can you hear me? Just before I close, allow me to share Startup Portugal's gratitude to our sponsors for making these events possible. And I ask you to applaud them as I share their name. Investors Portugal, Ferroviário, 351 Portuguese Startup Community, UP Tech, Porto City Council, Sograp, and Supervoc Group. It was a pleasure to be your host this evening, and let's have a drink and mingle.
Thank you. Thank you.